An 8-year-old girl asked one of the world's most powerful leaders such a profound question that the entire room fell silent. No one could have predicted what was to follow. Her innocent yet courageous query compelled Donald Trump to confront his past. What does God mean to you? This was not merely a story about a leader, but about the human experience and moments of deep reflection. As usual, Trump stood confidently at the podium. Yet, Lily's question stopped him in his tracks. This room was accustomed to political debates and applause, but this time, a young girl's soft voice captivated everyone's attention. "What does God mean to you?" echoed down the hall, and Trump's expression softened in an uncharacteristic way. A moment of silence became a doorway to his past. Taking a deep breath, Trump leaned on the podium. "That's not an easy question," he said. His voice was no longer commanding, but rather that of a man revisiting old wounds. "When I was your age, I had questions about God too. My father would take me to church every Sunday, and I remember sitting there wondering, does God really hear me?" Lily's eyes locked onto Trump's. The entire room was spellbound. The room was silent. Even the creaking of chairs had ceased. Trump paused briefly and continued, "But as I grew older, life taught me some hard lessons. I lost people I loved. I failed. And in those moments, I was angry at God. I asked, why is this happening to me?" Trump's raw confession stunned the audience. They were witnessing a side of him they had never seen before. "When I lost my brother Fred," Trump went on, "I completely turned my back on God. He was a good man, better than me. Why would God take someone like him? Losing him made me feel alone, like I'd lost all my faith." Lily listened intently, clutching her Bible tightly. Her simple, brave question had transformed a powerful leader into a vulnerable man. The audience held their breath. This was no ordinary event anymore. Trump looked out at the crowd, then back at Lily. "But life has a strange way of testing you," he said. "Years after Fred died, I had a dream. In it, Fred smiled at me with that comforting grin he always had. 'Don't be angry, Don,' he said. 'You have things to do.' When I woke up, I didn't fully understand what he meant. But that dream forced me to think differently. The room grew heavier with emotion. After that dream," Trump continued, "I started questioning what God really meant to me. Faith isn't about having all the answers. Sometimes it's just about finding a reason to keep going." Lily clutched her grandmother's Bible even tighter. Trump's words resonated not just with her, but with everyone in the room. People began reflecting on their own struggles and unanswered questions. Some in the crowd wiped away tears. Yet Lily kept her focus on Trump. He went on, "Fred taught me something. You don't always have to understand God's plan for it to exist. It's not about knowing everything. Sometimes it's just about trusting that there is a purpose." Trump's voice softened. His words reached the hearts of everyone listening. Trump turned to Lily. "Thank you for reminding me of this, Lily," he said. "When I was your age, I wouldn't have dared to ask such a question. It takes courage to ask because it forces you to face your fears." Lily nodded gently. The audience marveled at how this small girl's question had created a wave of reflection and vulnerability. Lily's mother gently touched her daughter's shoulder, but Lily remained focused on Trump. "My grandmother always told me that God is always listening," Lily said, her voice soft but determined. Trump's expression softened further. What had begun as a leader's speech had transformed into a shared story about faith, courage, and humanity. Trump nodded, moved by Lily's words. "Your grandmother was a wise woman," he said. "Faith is sometimes the only thing that keeps us standing in our hardest times." A murmur of agreement rose from the audience. Trump turned his attention back to the crowd. "But faith isn't always easy. An elderly woman in the audience raised her hand and spoke. Her voice trembled as she said, "I lost my husband last year. Since then, I've lost my faith. Do you think I can ever find it again?" Trump's gaze softened as he looked at her. "Yes," he said. "Even when faith is lost, it waits for you. It's never too late to find it again." A wave of emotion spread through the room. Lily held her grandmother's Bible close. "My grandmother always said faith is like a seed. Sometimes you can't see it growing, but one day you'll see its roots." Trump smiled. "She's right," he said. "Faith isn't always visible, but it never disappears. And you, Lily, reminded me of that." The audience was captivated by Trump's soft but powerful words. Trump's tone shifted. He spoke more strongly and clearly. "In this world, it's easy to lose faith. Success, power, wealth, these things can't fill the void. Real answers come from faith. And faith isn't just about facing God. It's about facing ourselves." The room fell silent. This was no ordinary leader's speech. Lily's question had made the night extraordinary. Trump leaned on the podium and took a deep breath. "Today, a little girl asked me the hardest question, and it reminded me of something I'd forgotten. God doesn't always give us answers, but He is the reason for the journey." The audience listened in awe. Lily's small smile lit up the room. Trump looked at Lily once more. "You reminded me not just of God, but of humanity," he said. "Because sometimes the simplest questions bring out the most complex answers. And those answers don't just change us. They change the world around us." As Lily's mother wiped away tears, the little girl had clearly touched Trump's heart. The room felt the power of her brave question. Trump turned back to the crowd. "We all have a purpose, but sometimes finding that purpose takes time. Today, this little girl reminded me of the most important lesson I've learned. Faith is about climbing, even when you've fallen." The audience erupted in applause, but it wasn't just applause. It was a celebration of connection and meaning. Trump stepped down from the podium and approached Lily. Kneeling to her level, he asked, "What's your name, sweetheart?" Lily's voice trembled as she replied, "Lily." Trump smiled. "Lily, thank you for your courage. You touched everyone's heart today. And never forget, God is always listening." Lily's eyes sparkled. That moment became a powerful scene for everyone in the room. The audience dispersed, many smiling through tears. Some lingered, reflecting on Trump's story. An older man murmured, "Sometimes you just need to listen." Trump and Lily left the room, but the impact of that night stayed with everyone who had witnessed it. The story didn't end there. That night, Lily held her grandmother's Bible closer to her heart. Trump left the room thinking of his past losses. But both had learned something profound about faith, courage, and humanity. What about you? What does God mean to you? Will you take a moment to find the answer? Don't forget to support us for the continuation of our videos, subscribe to our channel, and like our video.